Hello everyone. Now that we've covered the data types and structures in Python, we are going to talk about operators. Operators are the special characters such as the plus sign, the minus sign, and the equal sign that Python recognizes to be used for certain actions. There are a number of operators used in Python, but in this video, I'll be focusing on arithmetic operators. The basic arithmetic operators are the plus sign, the minus sign, the multiplication sign, and the forward slash for division. Obviously, what they do is pretty straightforward, and I have actually demonstrated these four operators when talking about the basic data types, but I'm going to go into a little more detail about them as well as cover the remaining arithmetic operators in this video. The result of a mathematical calculation will typically be the same type as the numbers used. All integers will result in another integer, and all floats will result in another float. The one exception to this is division, which is also known as float division in Python 3. This will always return a float even if you just use integers. If you want it to return an integer, then you can either use casting or use floor division, which is also known as integer division. So right now I have up here just some basic arithmetic operators on integers and floats. And I show addition, subtraction, multiplication, and float division. And I'm doing both floats and integers. So if I run this, as you see, we got 6 for the integer, 6.0 for the float, 2, 2.0, 8, 8.0, and if you notice down here for division, which is also float division, it's 2.0 for both of them. Even though x and y are both integers, as you can see up here, it will always be a float. When you use a combination of integers and floats in mathematical calculations, then it will result in a float by default. So I've got an integer 2 and a float 2.0, and if I run this, then we get floats for all the answers. Now, there are 3 other arithmetic operators we can use in Python, one of which I mentioned already, floor division, also known as integer division. The other 2 are exponentiation and modulo. Floor division is referred to as integer division because it will return the largest possible integer value. In order to use floor division, you would use 2 forward slashes like you see here. Exponentiation is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically x to the power of y. And finally, we've got modulo. Modulo is another division operator using the percent sign, but instead of returning a quotient, it will instead return the remainder. The remainder can be either an integer or a float. So I'm going to go ahead and run this code. And as you can see here, floor division results in a 1 because 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. Round it down, you get 1. 3 to the power of 2 results in 9, which you see here. And 3 divided by 2 results in a remainder of 1, so that's what we have down here. Now, some of these operators can do more than just mathematical operations, and we'll talk about a few of them in this video. The others will have to wait until we get into other certain topics. So we'll start with a very simple one, unary signs. The plus and minus obviously can be used to define something as positive or negative. The positive sign we don't really need to use because obviously you can just put the number without it. But if you want to specify something as negative, then you have to make sure to put the minus sign. And Python does have the capability of understanding when a negative sign is about to be neutralized here. So if I run this, we get a 4, a negative 5, and then a positive 9 because we canceled out the negative value here with another negative. The plus and star operator can perform a number of other operations on non-numeric types as well. For strings, the plus operator is used for string concatenation, which is used for combining strings together to create a new, sometimes bigger string. You can even use concatenation to combine variables with other strings, which is particularly useful for debugging and normal message printing. You can combine that information with a descriptive string so that when it is printed on the screen, the user will understand what the data is. And I've got some examples here of string concatenation with the plus sign. So as you can see here, we've got just a string concatenating with other strings. We've got a string variable being concatenated with an additional string. And then we've got one here where we're concatenating a string with an integer and a string with a float. And if I run these, they print out as whole strings here. The star operator has a very similar effect on strings as with numbers. When we have a line that looks like this, we are telling Python to repeat the string by a specified number of times, and this only works with integers. You can't use floats. So if I were to run this, as you can see here, it stored the word repeat plus the space 5 times into this variable. So when we printed it out, it prints out 5 repeats. The 2 operators have the same effect on lists and tuples as well. The plus operator will add lists or tuples together to create a new list or tuple respectively. Please note, you cannot add a list and a tuple together. Only lists with other lists and tuples with other tuples. So I've got some arithmetic stuff with tuples and I got some with lists. We'll show this one first. So I have these two tuples here, and I added them together, which resulted in a single tuple with all the numbers in there. And then we did a tuple with a single word repeat. And of course, I added the comma because when you have a tuple with only one element, you've got to add the comma so it knows that that's a tuple. Otherwise, it would just see it as a string. And we multiplied it by 4, so we got a tuple with 4 repeats inside of it. Likewise with lists, we got 2 lists here. We added them together to get one singular list. And then we took another list with the element repeat, multiplied it by 4 again, and we got a list with 4 repeats. And that's it for arithmetic operators in Python. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, then please leave a like, and be sure to leave a comment below to let me know what you think. If you want to see more, head on over to Wayfair Coding Academy channel to check out my other content. And while you're there, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the new stuff as it comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.